So, picture this. You meet a girl at the lowest point of her life. She's 19, strung out on meth, dropping out of college, fighting with her parents every single day. Her life is basically a dumpster fire. And instead of walking away like any sane person would, you decide, you know what? I'm gonna fix her. I'm gonna stay. That man was Greg DeVillers. And that decision, the kindest decision of his life, would end up being the last one he ever made. So here's how it starts. It's the mid-90s. Greg is a college kid visiting Tijuana with his brothers, just doing normal young guy stuff, when he meets Kristen Rossum. She's beautiful, charismatic, and deeply, dangerously addicted to meth. Most people see that combination and run. Greg sees a person worth saving. He takes her in, monitors her, supports her, pushes her to get clean, pushes her to go back to school. And slowly, against all odds, it actually works. Kristen gets sober, enrolls at San Diego State University, and in 1998, she graduates summa cum laude with highest honors in chemistry. The woman went from meth addict dropout to top of her class, and then she lands one of the most prestigious jobs you can imagine, forensic toxicologist at the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office. Her literal job is analyzing drugs and poisons found in dead bodies, which, as it turns out, is going to be very relevant later. In 1999, Greg and Kristen get married, and for Greg, this is the fairy tale ending. He loved her at her worst and got to watch her become her best. He probably thought he was the luckiest man alive. He had no idea. Because almost immediately after the wedding, Kristen starts feeling trapped, says Greg is too controlling, too clingy, too involved. And instead of having a conversation like an adult, she starts sleeping around, first with 2 coworkers, but then a new supervisor arrives at the lab, a smooth Australian doctor named Michael Robertson. He's charming, he's educated, and he is very married. Kristen doesn't care. Robertson doesn't care. The affair kicks off fast. But here's where the story takes a dark turn, because at work, Kristen manages the evidence logbook. Drugs seized by police pass through her hands every day, including meth. And being around it constantly starts pulling at something deep inside her. Eventually, she gives in. She relapses, quietly, secretly, stealing drugs from the evidence locker at a county medical examiner's office, while sleeping with her boss, while pretending everything is fine at home. Greg eventually notices something is off. She's cold, distant, detached. Finally, Kristen tells him she wants a separation. Greg, heartbroken, starts digging, and what he finds destroys him. A glass meth pipe in her belongings and a crumpled love letter from Michael Robertson. He now knows everything, the affair, the relapse, all of it. And Greg, rather than just eating the L and walking away, decides to give her an ultimatum. Quit the job, or he goes straight to her supervisors with everything. Which, honestly, is understandable. He's terrified for her. But for Kristen, that threat is a death sentence to the life she's built. Her job, her reputation, her precious Michael. Everything she has comes crashing down if Greg talks. So Kristen, the forensic toxicologist who spends her days studying exactly how drugs kill people, decides Greg has to go. And she is terrifyingly methodical about it. She steals oxycodone and clonazepam from the evidence locker and slips them into Greg's food or drink. He passes out. But Kristen isn't leaving anything to chance. She then takes fentanyl patches, a synthetic opioid 100 times stronger than morphine, and sticks them directly onto his body. The overdose becomes unstoppable. The second autopsy would later find 7 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Greg never wakes up. He dies just days before his 27th birthday. But Kristen isn't done. Now she needs a story. So she stages a scene so theatrical it would make a Hollywood director raise an eyebrow. She arranges Greg's body neatly, places their wedding photo beside him, lays out his crumpled love letter, scatters pages from her diary around the room, and then, and this is the part that made this case famous, she covers his chest with red rose petals, deliberately evoking the iconic image from the movie American Beauty, her favorite film. The message she's trying to sell: Greg discovered her affair, became heartbroken, and took his own life. Then she calls 911. And at first, people believe her. But Greg's family? Absolutely not. Because Greg hated drugs, was terrified of them. His brothers push hard for a second investigation, and that second autopsy blows the whole thing open. Fentanyl, a drug 100 times stronger than morphine, a drug Kristen knew her own office didn't routinely test for. The one poison she was certain would never be detected. Police start pulling threads. They uncover the affair, the relapse, the stolen evidence, and then comes the detail that truly seals her fate. A receipt from a supermarket on the day Greg died. Kristen had bought soup, cold medicine, and a single rose. She claimed she bought it for Robertson. The petals on Greg's body were red, and the receipt didn't specify the color. But the timing on that receipt, it placed her somewhere she claimed she wasn't. One small piece of paper, one tiny oversight. Kristen Rossum was convicted of first-degree murder in November 2002. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. No chance of release, ever. And Greg, the man who stayed when everyone else left, who helped a girl rebuild her life from the ground up, who loved her through the worst of it and celebrated with her through the best of it, he was 26 years old. Killed by the very person he saved, with the very knowledge he helped her earn. That's the story of Kristen Rossum, the American Beauty murder. And the chilling part isn't the poison or the rose petals or the staged scene. It's the fact that the whole thing was made possible by one man's decision to be kind.